Hi everyone, we're Bree and Tyler, and we're here with our 24 Days of Gaming, a retrospective part 2. If you're unfamiliar with our 24 Days of Gaming, feel free to check out our previous videos. We are doing games 7 through 12 in this video, and that started with Elimino. Elimino is a game that we received from the owners, or from the creators of the game. They sent it to the shop for us to kind of test out and get the word out about the game. It is a card game in which you are trying to get from 8 to 1 through a series of different rounds.
8 to 0?
8 to 0. Gosh, yeah. I want to say 1, partially because there's a 1 on the box, and also because 1 is the last card that you have. But in any case, you have cards. They're all face down, and you are trying to get 1 through 8, and then if you succeed, you'll get 1 through 7, and so forth from there. This game was a lot of fun. So much fun, in fact, that our daughter, she's the one that added it to our 24 Days of Gaming. She enjoyed it so much, and we've played it quite a few times.
I would agree. It was a good game. I enjoyed it as well. I didn't do great. It looks like a small game, looks like a quick game, and maybe if things went out perfectly, it would go quickly. It says 15 plus minutes on the box. I would definitely probably increase that up to more likely an hour, more realistically.
Depending, of course.
Maybe 30 to 45 minutes.
Yes.
If I'm being generous, but...
It does play a little bit longer, more on the plus side for the box, but you can reduce the time. And I think if you have less players, it does go quite a bit faster.
What's up to 5 players, and we had 4 of us, so no, all right.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
I can see the rounds do go rather quickly.
They do, yes.
And as long as you're honestly playing, the rounds, and we were a little distracted that night, so that could be the reasons that it took a little bit longer.
Who knows?
In any case, ultimately, we really enjoyed Elimino, and it was a great time.
All right.
Moving on, we did... We did Clue. We had our Clue night at the shop. So thank you for everyone who came out and played Clue with us. For those who even dressed up and had a really good time. I think we had one person dressed up, but that's okay. Clue was lots of fun. And there are several different versions of Clue. In fact, I just found out about a 3D Ultimate Clue version. I don't even know. It was like $300, and now I want it.
It does sound cool, though.
If you're unfamiliar with the game of Clue, it is a whodunit. You're trying to find out who, where, and with what somebody was typically murdered. But I think other Clue versions, I think there was a Golden Girls where you're trying to find who ate the pie or something like that.
Was that what it was? Or was it just kind of there should be a Golden Girls who ate the pie?
Oh man, I can't remember now.
I know it came up in discussion, but
it did.
I don't remember if it exists or if people just want it to exist.
Well, now I gotta look that up again. In any case, the one thing that I think we wanted to mention about Clue was the rules.
Well, yes, and I'm sure most people watching this video probably know how to play Clue, but if you don't, we'll just kind of gloss over them real quick. There's cards representing the person, the place, and the thing that are the things, plural, persons, places, and things. And 1 from each of those sets gets set aside, and that is what you're trying to figure out for the rest of the game. The rest of the cards get dealt out to everybody else. You know what you have, and you're trying to figure out what everyone else has. The big sticking point, there was a little bit of disagreement about this when we had our Clue night at the Lair, was how do you make that accusation at the end? And the way I've always played, the rules I've always gone by is you have to go to a center room and you got to make your accusation there. And the rules of this Clue support that. But we had another version of Clue that another group was playing that night, and their version, you could just make the accusation right after you figured out who did it on your turn.
Yeah. So wherever you were located, you can make that final accusation after you make it a rumor, and you could win the game that way instead of waiting to come back to your turn and making it to that center room.
So we're kind of curious, how do you guys play? What rules are you used to? Do you go by? Because this other way of making accusations was brand new to me, And it turns out a lot of the newer versions of Clue have that, apparently.
Yeah, so I guess it kind of depends on when did you start playing Clue, when did you read the directions to Clue, and do you continue to read them for all the new versions of Clue?
I glance over them, but I guess I don't read them that deeply anymore.
I feel like it's a lot of your common childhood games. You forgot the rules, or you made them up. Like nobody plays Monopoly correctly, or there's apparently an Uno that nobody's playing correctly. Clue is now added to that list.
You've always played them this way, right? And that's how you know they're played, and no one can tell you otherwise. Right?
Well, now we can.
Now we can.
But that was Clue. It was a great night. Always a fun time. After Clue, we played Rome in a Day. Rome in a Day is a game from Alley Cat Games. Sorry, I just want to make sure it gets in the shot there. Everyone wants to see the lovely box. Rome in a Day is actually a really fun game. In this game, you are building terrain for Rome. And you have 8 terrain tiles with buildings. As you draw these tiles, you're going to separate them into 2 different piles. So you have 5 tiles that you'll separate out.
Hold on. Sorry, did you say we have 8 terrain tiles?
Oh my God, I did say 8,
There's
and
20.
I meant. Oh my goodness. Rewind. No, I'm just kidding. There's 20 tiles, but you're going to do 4 rounds, so 5 tiles each. Of the terrain. I think I was saying terrain, and it sounded so much like 8 to me that I was like, I'm just gonna go with numbers. In any case, you have 5 tiles that you draw each round, and you'll separate them into 2 different piles, and then you're going to steal from your right or your left depending on the round. As you steal, obviously someone is stealing from you. You'll be left with the rest of the tiles and the ones you stole, and you'll add them to your main terrain. You score points based on the buildings. You want to make sure that you group together the correct terrain and the buildings that go along with the terrain, and you score your points at the end.
Yeah, it's a very simple game. Hopefully the description there, or overview of the gameplay there, sounds simple as well, and matches kind of our thoughts on it. But it's quick, it's easy, and I think it's a pretty easy game to teach new people too. And the fact that it plays quickly is nice, and it's not a turn by turn game. Everyone's playing at the same time, which is also nice, and that helps it kind of run fast. It says 15 to 30 minutes. I would say that is a very accurate estimate of your playtime. So
I would agree. Our son Ronan is the one who added it to our 24 days of gaming, and we played it in 30 minutes with the 4 of us. It says 8+, but our 6-year-old picked it up really quickly, and it is great. 2 to 5 player, good family game.
Yep. Great filler game if you don't have a lot of time. So
Rome in a Day.
Rome
that
in
one
a
was
Day.
from Alley Cat Games, and we mentioned that because the next game that we played was Arborea, also from Alley Cat Games. This one is part of their advanced line, though, so completely different.
Way different feeling.
Way more intense, and way more advanced.
It is from the advanced line. So.
It's very intimidating, the game, if you look at the board. There are lots of colors, lots of paths. You have no idea what's going on, and it's quite intense.
So how would you say a quick way to play it? Quick overview of how it's played?
A quick overview. It's a village. It's a villager. I always want to say village placement, but it's a villager placement. Yeah. You're not placing villages. Mm-hmm. But you're sending your villagers out, and they're going to move through the different routes to receive different rewards. Those rewards can be creatures, they can be biomes, and you're creating a habitat to attract the creatures to, and what have you. And
ultimately, that's kind of the end goal, right?
That is
that's kind
the
of
end
how
goal of
like
the
you're
game.
scoring the entire time you're playing, but your end game scoring then comes into play with these habitats that you're building, your own personal habitat, and placing these creatures into it. Because I think the background of this game was there's been some big natural disaster, catastrophe,
something
like
along
that.
those lines. Yes.
Kind of wiped things out, and now it's your job to lead the spirits or what have you to regrow, rebuild, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
That's Arborea. We had an interesting time playing it. By quite a bit. There was a big discrepancy in
100 points, I think it was.
Yeah. It was pretty sad. But I mean, I had a great time.
I still enjoyed it though. I did. And it was,
heavy.
as was mentioned, it's definitely a more intimidating game. And we kind of took the approach of, like, rather than just completely reading through the rule book, we just kind of threw it aside and said, let's just start playing and let's see what happens as we play. So we kind of learned through those first few rounds of playing, and I think that actually really helped the process of learning it. Because by the end, you know, by the end sounds wrong. After those first few rounds, I picked it up pretty quickly. I felt like I had a good understanding of everything going on pretty quickly, but there was a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot
of different things to pay attention to. You had, what was it? Was it 8 different paths? 8 different paths that you could take?
Yes, there were 8 different paths. Yeah.
So, and that's every time you're putting out one of your villagers, you're basically choosing which one of those 8 paths they're going out to. And not only do you have those 8 paths, but you have to keep track of resources that are shared. They're shared resources between the 2 players. You don't have your own personal resources, but you also have to pay attention to the habitats that you're trying to complete, which require those shared resources. And then also the creatures need to match the habitats that you're trying that you have built out in front of you.
But those are also shared, so you have to make sure you nab the creature that you want. That is a really good point. Yeah. I do think it's interesting, that shared resource mechanic in this game. You don't see it often. Usually you're just making your own resources and collecting them as you go. This one, you score points on creating resources for your opponents. And moving along the board game that way. So it was very interesting.
Yes, definitely a different twist on this type of game, I feel like, and I would like to play it again.
Yeah,
even though I lost horribly.
That was Arborea. Sounds good.
I think next up we had Tiny Epic Vikings, right?
Yes, Tiny Epic Vikings.
So this is another one of the another game in the Tiny Epic series. I believe this is one of the more recent games. I believe we got this earlier this year. Or was it actually last year that we ended up getting it?
Oh gosh, I don't feel like it was last year. Was it?
Must have been pretty early this year then. I know we tried to play this once before, and we got it all set up, and we just started playing, and then we weren't able to finish that game. So it's kind of been sitting on the shelf waiting for us to break it back out, and perfect time to bring it back out.
We did.
So Tiny Epic Vikings, we'll see if I can do a nice brief overview of how this is played, is you have your own settlers, ships, and temples that you're using to claim influence and control on islands, and you're choosing the actions that you're taking based on a set of cards that you're drafting at the beginning of each round between the players. And the reason you're claiming control of these islands is because that is how you are gaining these runes, which are tied to 3 available Norse deities that represent each one of these runes. It's all random in the setup. But as these runes change hands and as battles happen, the value of these runes in relation to those deities, which is called Fury, goes up. And then at the end of the game, whichever runes have the highest Fury value are worth the most points. So then you're kind of tallying up the points based on the runes you have with their position on the god mats, and that is how you score it. Does that seem kind of good coverage of how hopefully it makes sense?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty good. It was a very interesting game, that's for sure. Yes. There was the cards that you have are different. Were they called chieftains or what have you? Yes,
they were your tribe leaders or what have you.
Yeah, and they gave you certain actions you could take. There's some battle and things like that. Overall, as far as a Viking game, though, I didn't get the big Viking feel to it. Feel to it.
I think we've been spoiled though, because I think our first Viking game that we played was Raiders of the North Sea, and not to go off our 6 games of the past 6 days, but that is a fantastic Viking game and really gets that raiding feel down, I feel like.
Yeah, it feels more like a Viking game for sure. I do, to compare it to the other Tiny Epic games, it didn't feel as strong in the themes as the other ones, like your Tiny Epic Dinos or Galaxies, in which it feels like the theme plays more a part of. This one could be pirates, and you'd never know.
I mean, pirates, Vikings.
I mean, they're fairly similar, but I mean, Tiny Epic Pirates was definitely a better game than this one.
Yeah.
Definitely, it sounds mean, but
I would agree. I did enjoy Tiny Epic Pirates more than this one. Not that I hated this game. I'd play it again. It's not one I'd probably bring back to the table too many times, though, or too often, though. I wouldn't like strongly recommend, hey, let's play this game. But if someone's like, hey, what's Tiny Epic Vikings? Can we play that? I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, if somebody else suggests it, for sure. I'm just not going to jump to suggest it right away. That was Tiny Epic Vikings. To wrap it up, then, we played Dawn on Titan. Dawn on Titan is another new to us game that we played, and it is... it's a good game.
Yeah, it was good. It was an enjoyable game. Quick overview of what it is, though. It takes place in an unspecified future where we're trying to industrialize the moons around Saturn. In this game, you play an industry leader trying to get all of your industries built out. You have 7 of them. Every player has 7 of them. First player to get all 7 of them out wins.
Yes. You're going to be exploring the different moons, and as you do so, you're kind of traveling around the board and exploring the moons. And then, since there are only a limited number of moons to explore, there is going to be some battles so you can get all of your 7 industries out. The battle in this game is rock, paper, scissors. You have lasers, plasma, and charged particles, and you have cards with those on them. You're going to choose one, your opponent's going to choose one, and hopefully you chose the right one. And in the case of when we played, I always chose the right card.
This guy.
It was quite a fun game, and that rock, paper, scissors, I mean, it's a fun mechanic to play for combat. I mean, who doesn't like rock, paper, scissors?
It's different. It makes it hard to say that this game has a strong strategical or tactical value to it.
That's fair.
Because there's a lot of, you're gonna run into conflict. You have to run into conflict.
You have to, yeah.
Because there's gonna be a point where you're trying to get out your last industries, but there's no places left for you to put those industries. So you have to fight. You have to attack those industry or the other players' industries to remove them, so you can place your own down. And when it comes to that, it's just up to a luck of the draw. Well, not really luck of the draw, but just did you completely guess correctly which card you're supposed to play from your hand? May sound a little bitter about that, but that's just because I won absolutely none of our combats.
It was pretty sad. There was quite a bit of combat in our game, which I know in our previous video I said I didn't really like doing combat. However, since this one forces you to do it, it kind of makes it a little bit more fun than your cat and mouse thing that we typically do in games where we're avoiding combat at all costs. Yeah. This one we're like, you know what, let's do some combat, and it was fun because it didn't feel mean.
You're just picking a card. I can't be mad at you for winning.
You
right?
really
because
can't. There's no control.
There's no control over it. But it's not a bad mechanic. It's not something I like. I like this game and I'd play it again, and I'd suggest playing it again. But like that mechanic itself. I'm looking for something where my planning. I know I will be rewarded with, some in-depth planning of my actions going forward throughout a game. This game is not that.
All right, fair. It is a 1 to 4 player game, plays in 30 to 60 minutes, and I would say that's pretty accurate for the game as well. Sure. And ages 10 and up, our 8-year-old played with us. I guess he's 9 in a couple days, but he played with us, no probs. So it was a fun game. It
was a fun game. And one other thing I'll note about it is there are some, the gameplay actually is very simple.
It is, yes.
It's pretty easy to grasp. There are some rules around how you do things. There are specific movement rules. You can only move in a single direction. around the orbit of Saturn.
That's true.
Unless you do something specific that lets you change it. And there's a lot of rules built around that orbital direction, which I think is kind of actually a neat detail.
It is, yes, I would agree. And you see all those details on the game board as well.
Yes.
It's a simple game board, but it gives you just enough details too.
And everything you need to know is on that game board and on your player mat, which I think is also, I love games that do that.
Yes, I would agree. So you don't have to keep going back.
Right. No one wants to have to keep that rule book right next to them and keep opening up and referring back. So it's nice having that. Doesn't mean I like it.
But that was done on Titan, and the last game we played in this portion of our
quarter.
I keep wanting, I don't want to say quarter. I mean, it makes sense because it is a quarter of 24.
We got it broken up into nice quarters for us here. But anyways, so we had our 6 games we played. Did you have a favorite?
Of these 6, Roman and Day is always a good favorite. That one we've played a couple times now, 2 times, and I would absolutely bring that out again. I also do really like Elimino. I think the creators of the game did a really good job. It's lots of fun. And it is a simple game. Sure, it takes a little bit of time, but it's a simple game to bring out.
And really, that time could be completely variable. I mean, it could take 15 minutes.
You could sabotage and sabotage and sabotage.
I think our game took closer to an hour.
Yeah. To keep it balanced, I would say it's going to be more on the longer side instead of just dominating the whole time.
And of course, I think you're right. If it's just 2 players, I mean, you are definitely moving through that a lot quicker.
Absolutely.
But compared to Roman and Day, I think is always going to hit that 30-minute mark and never, not hit the 30-minute, but never surpass that 30-minute mark. So a great game that's reliably filler.
Yes, I would agree. I would agree with that one for sure. Just simple mechanics, which are always fun. But I do like those complex mechanics, so I am interested to play Arborea again, bring it back to the table now that we know a little bit more how to play. The rule book is a chapter book in itself. And
but it once you get into it, it doesn't need to be.
It does not need to be, but I do understand all the details to the rules and everything for sure. But it was, I would say this was a great haul of our 6 of the quarter. We had some good games in here, so I'm excited to start our next quarter, which starts with World Wonders. Super excited to play that one, and then it will end with Meadow on Monday, and we will do our part 3 retrospective after we play Meadow. Then
cover the third quarter of our games.
I can't believe we're already halfway through. It feels like Christmas is just around the corner, and oh my gosh, all the time. Like, we are so busy this time of year, and that's why this is really important to us. Gets us to spend time together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what this is for. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
And I'm having a good time. I'm having fun. I hope you are. I hope you guys are.
We'll be having fun watching along and liking our videos and everything. Feel free to follow us on our Facebook and Instagram and follow along for the different games, see who's winning. Which is not typically me. So
it's arguable recently.
And then don't forget, if you are local, to stop into our shop and let us know what game we played the night before and who won, so you can earn your prize. Thank you guys so much for following along. Check out our other videos, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Bye.